Have you ever seen a trailer for a film and think, my god, that looks freaking terrible. I am never going to see this movie. Well, that's what I thought when I saw the trailer for Speak No Evil. I thought it looked like garbage. But worst, I feel like that trailer played every time I went to the movies. Now, I go to the movies a lot. And I feel like over the last 4 months, I've seen that trailer a dozen times. So this was definitely a movie I was going to skip. But then inexplicably, I started hearing good reviews of it, and not just from critics, because we know how that can be, but from, actual moviegoers. So when last Sunday rolled around, and I had literally nothing to do, and the film had a start time which was, 30 minutes away, and I only live about 10 minutes from the theater, I figured, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. I got nothing else to do. How bad can it be? So, what do we have here? Should I have listened to my first instinct and avoided this movie because of the god-awful trailer? Or were the critics and fans who were giving it high marks, well, are they right? And is it an entertaining and good film? Well, before we answer that, let's talk a little bit about the plot to the movie Speak No Evil.
Let's talk.
So, here we find Ben and Louise. They are on holiday with their daughter Agnes. They meet free-spirited Patty and Sierra and their son Anthony. The couples hit it off. And after the trip, the Daltons, that's Ben and Louise, who are in a really bad place in their marriage, decide to take Patty and Sierra up on an offer to spend a week with them in their secluded house in the country. They arrive and things seem great at first. However, Lois begins to realize everything is not as it seems, and that Patty isn't as charming as he puts on. And as the movie continues, this growing fear becomes realized. So what works in this film? Well, James McAvoy, he plays Patty. He is utterly brilliant, switching from charming to psychotic in the blink of an eye. He's so unsettling and nuanced. He owns every scene he is in.
Ooh, he is great.
I would go so far as to say he might be one of the best movie villains I've seen all year. I mean, the entire cast is good, especially the two kids. Now, I'm not a big fan of kids in serious films. I feel like they're distracting, but I have to admit that they do a great job here, both of them. Now, James Watkins, who wrote and directed this, does a remarkable job setting up the scenes and the sense of dread and fear. It builds up throughout the film. The story begins slowly, but constantly, and you never once feel like it's bogged down or slow. He builds it up and builds it up through the film, and when the end comes, it doesn't feel rushed. So it doesn't work in this film. Well, character development of our two main protagonists, both Ben and Louise, it's really not good. Louise is an incredibly unlikable person, and I know that's how her character is written, but it's really hard to cheer for her throughout the entire movie. And then there is Ben. Ben is the personification of the modern Hollywood male character. He's weak. He's indecisive. He doesn't stand up for himself. And he never really gets a chance to shine in this movie. He's absolutely not the kind of guy who could take care of his family, let alone himself, in a tough situation. And finally, the biggest thing that doesn't work goes back to the terrible trailer. Yeah, it's awful. But it also gives us way too much information about where this story is heading. And it's a real shame, because if I didn't know so much about where this story was going, I would have enjoyed the film more. Now, that being said, this movie was surprisingly great. I really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. The story is really good, and McAvoy absolutely carries this film. I can see nominations for him for this role. I highly recommend that you see this movie. You don't have to see it in the theater. It's the perfect streaming film. So to answer our original question, yeah, the critics and the fans, they were right and I was wrong. Despite a really poor trailer, this is a quality film that I think you might enjoy.
I was wrong.
Well, that's it for me this week. Tune in next week where I give you my thoughts and feelings on whatever I've seen. In the meantime, click that like button, subscribe, leave a comment or a question. Share this video with friends and enemies alike. And as always, thank you for giving me your valuable time, and I'll see you next week. Take care.